coming off a thrilling and scrappy battle in the inaugural race. The newly minted Can-Am series makes good on the second half of its name and heads south for round number 2 of the 1966 championship. We're here at the much-loved beachside icon on the tip of Long Island, New York, Bridgehampton. This is part 32 of my 1966 series where I take on the role of our 60s racing hero, Richie and duke it out across all forms of racing in pursuit of that top step. We're in the gap of the Formula One season, post-European rounds, and before the North American finale. And to keep busy, Richie and much of the racing fraternity has focused its gaze on the new excitement, known as Can-Am. And if the first round was any indication, there'll be a lot to look forward to for round 2. For the real race, with a winner's purse of over $30,000, the entry list was stacked with well over 40 cars and teams. Amongst them, of course, was winner of round 1, John Surtees and his Lola. Team McLaren came with Bruce and Chris Amon as well. Penske had Mark Donohue, and Dan was back in full force with the Westlake Ford-powered Lolas for himself and Jerry Grant. But amongst the rest of the grid, made up of the top in American racing talent, sat 2 machines that stood out to say the least. Hauled up from Texas and making their series debut was Jim Hall and his incredible Chapparal. Upon unloading from the trailer, onlookers scoffed at what was described as a large sunshade above the rear axle. It was a massive spoiler wing, and it was fixed to the car, something almost unheard of in racing up to this point. But all the snickers and doubt quickly faded when drivers Phil Hill and Jim Hall took to the track. The Chapparal proved immediately fast. With automatic gears and foot-operated spoiler deflection, it was a new breed of racing car. No one could have known what that small Texas team had just unleashed upon the racing world. But it was not all clean sailing. During practice and qualifying, Hall's wing became loose, shearing from its mounting bolts. Lucky to avoid an accident, the resulting damage sidelined Hall's car, ended in withdrawal of one of the Chapparals from the event. And so when qualifying was finished, it was still the much more traditional Lolas of Dan Gurney and John Surtees on the front row, ahead of both McLarens on row 2, and now the lone Chapparal of Phil Hill lined up in admirable but not earth-shattering 5th. During the race, Gurney jumped off to an immediate lead he would not relinquish for the entire event. But Hill, shaded from the sun, gave good chase, keeping Gurney honest and following closely behind. But it wasn't meant to be. Late in the running, onlookers noticed Hill starting to fall back, leaving Gurney to truly set sail into the sunset. Both McLarens were able to overtake the slowing Chapparal before the finish, relegating the new car to a 4th place. After exiting the car, Phil noted his wing had also started to loosen, and he slowed out of safety concern. And so although the podium was filled with the more traditional machines, the racing world had forever been altered, and it was only getting started. And so we're here for our own edition of the Bridgehampton Grand Prix, driving for Gurney's All-American Racers. The last round saw a win slip away from old Richie. Battling with both Surtees and McLaren on the challenging Mont Tremblant proved just a little too much, with Surtees coming out on top. Looking at the points, it is Surtees, as in real life, leading the way to the second round. Myself, Richie Axelson, sitting in second, ahead of McLaren in third. As I've noted before in this series, it's only 6 races, and all races count for points. There's no drop rounds. So it's more important than ever to have a good showing in each to work towards that championship at the end of the season. So let's take a look at the course, the Bridgehampton Racing Circuit. 13 turns, 2.8 miles. If you look at the map of the circuit, it looks fairly simple, but driving it is anything but that. The elevation changes throughout the whole course. It's literally carved into the beaches on Long Island and very much replicates that. It's a track that you don't hear too much about these days, but it only closed, I believe, in the 1990s, but through the 50s and 60s was home to many of the top racing events in the United States. It had a prime location being right on Long Island and really was seen as one of those major racing venues. One that I know a lot of folks are sad about being gone, but coming through the lap itself, you rush down a hill through turns 1 and 2, down to turn 3, Millstone Corner and the Millstone Straight. Then an even tighter corner heads you through Echo Valley and back up the hill, and rushing up to the Valley of the Lefts, as they call it, a sequence of downhill left-handed corners that ultimately tighten up with turn 9. It feels much tighter than it looks here because it's kind of off camber and things. But then it's a short run to the light bulb, 180-degree, double, maybe triple apex right-hander that heads you back down East Straight, and through the final flying corner, you want a great exit there for the front straight again. It's an extremely fast course with laps being around a minute and a half, 90 seconds, and in the real Grand Prix, in the real race, they ran 70 laps, and keeping with our 1/3 distance, we'll be running 21 laps of the circuit. Plenty of time to make some moves, but also need to be a little bit careful through this one to keep it on the road and stay away from the sandbanks on the side. They really grab the wheels of the car, and it's very easy to get stuck. And so taking a look at our grid, Chris Amon was able to get the pole in his McLaren at a 1:32.4, just ahead of Dan Gurney, my team owner, my teammate throughout this series, starting second, looking for that win as he got in real life. And John Surtees, the winner from the first round, starting on the outside and rounding out that front row. Moving back to row 2, you've got the second McLaren of Bruce himself, alongside myself, Richie Axelson, starting in 5th. So I'll be starting right behind my teammate Dan Gurney and John Surtees in front, the winner of that first race. I need to pass as quickly as I can and hopefully try to get more points than him in this one. So we look back to the third row, Phil Hill starting in 6th in the Chapparal. He'll be on the inside, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of start that car can get. Mark Donohue then in Penske starts in the middle with George Fulmer on the outside. Looking back through the grid, it's a lot of the regular competitors that took part in these events. Al Unser makes an appearance in this one in the 98. I believe Parnelli Jones drove that in the last race. Sam Posey behind him. A lot of familiar names. This racing series really did attract a lot of the talent of racing in general in the United States at this time. So you do see quite a lot of the USAC or IndyCar drivers taking part. So despite having run one race already, it feels like there's more unknowns in this one, with Gurney finally taking part, the wing Chapparal in there as well. It's a wide open race, and I'm very excited for it. So let's get started with the 1966 Bridgehampton Grand Prix. All right, so here we are on the grid. Got Surtees and Gurney in front. Amon's on the pole, Bruce McLaren to my right. Flag is up. Down, we're underway. Trying to control that wheel spin off the line and drag race down to the first corner. They're all gonna get the hop on me. Up to third gear, we'll head underneath the Bridgehampton banner into turn number 1. Nice and easy here in this opening lap. Double right-hander heading down the hill. See Donohue in my mirror behind. All right, come down Millstone corner, second gear. Nice and easy. Oh, Surtees runs a bit wide there. Get it onto the Millstone straight, pick up the power. Not a lot of grip on the opening lap here. We'll head down to Colasanti. It's a good overtaking zone. Need to get this done fast, get in front of Surtees. So he leaves the inside open there. Oh, fender to fender. Try to switch lanes, get up the inside as Gurney's falling back now. So these two will hold each other up, maybe sweep up the outside. Gurney's gonna fall in front. So we'll head up the hill here and into the valley of the lefts. Triple left-hander, so tricky through this section. Nice and easy here in the opening lap. Let's balance the throttle and brake. Get it down to second gear in that little straight section, a bit hot. Come into the tight left-hander, shoot wide, pick up the throttle though into the light bulb corners. Gurney's gonna block the way there. This 180-degree corner, very late apex, so come through the rise in the road and onto the back section of the course. That'll head us towards the final corner. All right, Gurney right in front of me, my teammate. I think Surtees in front of him, and then the two McLarens running away. An excellent start for Bruce, so we'll head into the final turn. Try to get a good run onto the straight underneath the Löwenbräu banner and complete the first lap. So I think netting out where I started, but the grid is all shuffled up in front. You just need to be ultra careful here in the early laps, getting the car up to temperature. So we slide through the first corner, really sideways there. Gurney's held up with Surtees. Get up the inside into Millstone. He's going to outbrake me though. Onto the Millstone straight, better exit. Set me up for Colasanti corner. Battling with the boss. Oh, down to second gear though. But he leaves the inside open. Sneak up the inside there, right around Gurney. The master will follow the student, it seems, as we'll head left-hander now. The track a bit cambered there. The camber on different sections of the track, different corners, can help you or hurt you. Coming over the rise here into Valley of the Lefts, as they call it. The track slopes away. It's so easy to kick yourself out into the dirt there. But we'll close up right behind Surtees now. Down into light bulb. Oh, he's going to slam on the brakes. I should have jumped up the inside there. Luckily not making contact though. So come around the long right-hander, try to pick up the throttle, slide the car out of the corner. He's a bit slow there on the straight, maybe missing a shift or something. Get up the inside. The Surtees headed to the final turn. And he slides in behind, gives me the spot. His car a bit slidey on throttle, pitching all over the place, frantically working at the wheel. We'll come across the line though. Get the pit board. P5, that's last lap through. P5, so I think I'm up to P3 now with those two passes. And chasing down the two McLarens in front. Bit of a repeat of last race. As Surtees behind, I think, slides a little bit wide. Get down to second gear here for Millstone. As the tires come in, the car will settle down just a little bit and become a bit easier to drive. It's so tricky on the first few laps, though, and especially around a course like this. Bridgehampton is not an easy track to drive. Some of the apexes are actually quite wide in corners, like this corner. You don't really want to get on the inside there. The track actually pitches up a little bit. You can upset the car quite a lot. It's a very, very interesting circuit. Over the top of the rise, get the ocean in the background there, right on the tip of Long Island. One of those classic racing venues that's such a shame that it pretty much ended international racing in the 70s and fizzled out for many years after that. So we'll slide a bit sideways into light bulb. That was interesting. Pick up the throttle on the exit. I don't know how much speed I've got for these two McLarens in front. Just try to keep pushing a little bit. Staying on the road, most importantly. So I think it's probably Eamon in the lead. We'll get a look at it this time. Come out of the final corner under that Löwenbräu banner. So there it is, McLaren. Yeah, McLaren in front. 18 laps to go, P3. It's a good spot to be in. I don't see anybody in my mirror now. It's a clean sailing. Gurney's falling back. Maybe battling with Surtees behind me. Here through Colasanti. It's alright, as long as you keep the speed up. This car has enough torque to really get you out of most situations without losing too much time. I didn't see anywhere the Chapparal on the start. In real life, that car, Phil Hill with the winged Chapparal, was hounding Gurney for much of the race, but nowhere to be found up here. We'll see if he comes up behind me at any point. See some brake marks there. I think that's from me locking it up behind Surtees earlier. So we'll slide out wide, grab a late apex. Just about holding station with the two in front. They're mighty quick. I don't know if we're going to catch any lapped cars during this race. If we do, it's going to be at the very, very end, I think. So we'll see how much speed I can put together and if I can catch up to them. Those Oldsmobile Chevrolet engines that the McLarens just have a little bit more power than my Ford Westlake engine. And reading a bit about this race, it really was a Ford engine from a Fairlane, a Ford Fairlane, the big touring car. And you see mix it up with all the little touring cars of the 1960s. And Gurney swapped on his own heads, the Westlake heads, on the engine and produced a little over 500 horsepower, but he really was one of the only Ford teams out and racing in this era in these types of cars. It's the diverse mixture of different car chassis and engines and things that make this era so interesting. So try to carry some speed here up the hill. Definitely pulling in a bit now on McLaren. It's going to be a repeat of last race. Need to get around McLaren and then get up to Eamon. Slide it out of the corner. Got plenty of laps to go. Just need to be nice and smooth here. I think I've got the speed on him. This lap was good. Rush to the line, up to fourth gear. So Surtees, 4 seconds off. Keep an eye on that too, but I don't expect him to come catch me if he's that far back. Just need to keep it on the road. It's so simple just to touch the edge of the track and it pull you off the deep sands you can imagine on the beaches. And they talk a lot about this track being so slick for the beginning of races because the wind would just blow the sands over the surface, a lot like Zandvoort in that way. It's a track that actually reminds me a lot of Zandvoort. So we'll run a bit wide here into Colasanti. I don't think it hurts too much. Just keep the speed up. All right. Chase is on with McLaren in front. No doubt he'll see me in the mirror now. Right, down to third gear, down to second. So scary through this section. Takes a lot of commitment to push a car through there. Right up the back, Bruce McLaren now. Try to get a good exit here. At a light bulb. Should have the slipstream now. It's a bit slow on the straight there. It's exactly where I got by Surtees. Up to fourth gear. Right down to second into the final corner. Apex here is also a little bit wider than you'd think it would be. The inside of the track. It's just very bumpy. We'll come to the line. You can see the Oldsmobile pull away in front just a little bit. McLaren definitely pulling him in. Surtees falling off quite heavily now. Thread the needle through the first couple of corners. Sometimes it feels like you're almost holding on with these cars as it kicks sideways there. Careful to not spin it. It's really easy to do. Be good to try to pass into this corner. It's a great passing zone. This car slides sideways again. Just catch the tank slapper there, man. All right, gotta be careful. Maybe heating up the tires a bit too much with all the sliding. See spectators right outside the fences on the circuit. There weren't a lot of grandstands or anything at Bridgehampton. It really was just kind of in the middle of the sand dunes near the beach on Long Island. Right on the back though, McLaren now, even closer this lap despite some of the mistakes. Try to get a good exit here. Might be able to catch him on this straight. Seems a bit slow. He's able to hold the speed this time though. Right, come up to the final corner. Just catch the car sliding there. It's a tricky braking zone. Anytime that the track is curving going into a braking zone, it's extra hard in these types of cars. Not a lot of downforce except for that Chapparal somewhere in the grid. Right on the back of McLaren now though. The crowd will see Axelsen catching McLaren, ready for the duel. Nice and easy through here. Just don't want to slide the car again. Might be able to set him up for light bulb. Right down to second for Colasanti. Right to the inside this time. Just waiting on the throttle. Back down to second for the left-hander. Long left-hander. You can chuck it into that one. All right, decent exit there. Just a little far back. See how close I can get though. Don't want to wait too long with him. Right down to third. Just let it roll down the hill here. Down to second. Car sliding sideways. Just holding onto it. Right on the back of McLaren though. See if we can slide up the inside. There we go. Right up the inside. Slides in behind me. Just try to run away now. Nice clean pass on McLaren though. Oh, I apexed a bit too early there though. Just kick up a bit of dirt on the exit. All right. Just need a nice, solid final corner here to get away down the front stretch. Now we go for first, up to second place then. Plenty of laps to go too. It's kind of how the last race worked out too, starting a little bit further back and running through a few cars. I think I've got the speed maybe to do it. We'll see if I can catch Eamon though. Come over the rise of the hill. Certainly need to keep McLaren behind. 2 second place finishes would not be bad either. It's the slow corners seem to be the hardest ones. The car kicks sideways randomly. It's understeer until it's complete oversteer once you get on the throttle. Alright, so I think pulling away from McLaren behind, we'll try to have a nice run over the top of the hill here. I really pushed it last time through. Maybe take it slightly more conservative on this lap. Down to third gear. It's nice and easy right on the inside. That's better. Maybe it looks a little slower, but it's certainly a lot safer. Come into light bulb. It's a shame we're not going to probably not see the Chapparal in this race unless Phil Hill comes out of nowhere behind. That car was such a big highlight of this race. You can see in all the coverage of it from the time. The article is an article from Sports Illustrated 1966 that covers this race, and the whole discussion about unveiling the car from the trailer and all the onlookers wondering what it is. What is that huge thing over the top of the car? They didn't even know initially that it was a wing. It's tough to even imagine now. So throw it into the first corner, all right to the outside. Kick up a little bit of dirt just for the spectacle of it all. It's tough to imagine that you wouldn't immediately recognize it as a wing, but racing cars simply didn't have wings like that on them, and they don't anymore anyway. This huge wing over the top of the car, and everybody wondering what it was going to be like, thinking initially that it was going to be this big flop. Jim Hall and that crazy Texas team were going to have an ultimate failure on their hands, but as soon as they started turning laps, both Jim Hall and Phil Hill, all of the onlookers immediately recognized this car is very, very quick. Try to toe the line here as a slow down for the end of Valley of the Lefts. I think I might actually be pulling in Eamon. Just easy does it. We've got quite a lot of laps to go, so need to conserve. Just reel them in lap by lap. We might, like I said, we might catch lap traffic. I'm not sure. There's only 20 cars in this race. In real life, I think there were 35 or more that actually ran the race, so you would see a bit more traffic and things then. So come into the final corner. Decent end of the lap that Bruce McLaren's falling off behind. Come across the line. So Eamon 4 seconds up the road last time around. I think there's 11 laps to go. So just about halfway through the race already, up to second place. It's working out well. In this championship, there's just no time to have a bad race, especially with, even if Surtees finishes fourth or wherever I left him at. With the win last race, he's definitely the one to beat right now. But consistency will pay off. So understeer so much there through Colasanti. Just didn't get the line. This track has really interesting grip and different characteristics to the road surface. It's unlike a lot of the other tracks I've raced. Really have to find the right line for your car. It keeps you working at it. Decent exit there. I think Jim Hall's wing failing in practice and ultimately Phil Hill's starting to fail as well during the race is really foreshadowing to how those high-winged cars would go. Technically, and I'm not an aerodynamicist, but I think high wings like that are technically more efficient for the car because there's no other disturbance in the air around. So it is kind of the optimal way to have aerodynamics, or at least it was back then. But so hard to make something strong enough, especially with materials of the time, to put up with those massive G-forces, the big struts that held the wings on, that you'll start to see in the Grand Prix cars even heading after the 67 season. But here we are in 66 with a car with a wing on the top of it, and an actuated wing at that. They've got the pedal in the car that can actually move the wing. Pressing the pedal down, I believe, adds more downforce to the car. All right, down to second gear here. Holding station a bit with Eamon in front. Need to push maybe a little bit more to get up to him. Running Starting out in third gear, hopefully not over-revving the car too much. It's a shorter race than the real-life one, so hopefully be able to make it the distance. There we go, aim it in front. So tough to tell if you're pulling in on a car or not. Let's come around light bulb here. Feels so slow in the middle. But these cars, pretty much all mechanical grip at this point. Just see that red streak running away. If we catch some lap traffic, that might be what I need to catch up to him. Just like last race, using that lap traffic to get around McLaren. So jump onto the outside. There's some bumps there in that final corner too that make it tricky. All right, 9 laps to go though. I'm gonna run out of time if I don't really start putting some speed in. Bit conservative through the first corner. Oh, I grabbed the apex through the second. The car brakes sideways there. It's definitely a handful today on this track. Maybe Gurney experiencing the same thing behind. I'm surprised he's not up here. He's very quick in qualifying. You just try to impress the boss and get out front. Get up to fourth gear here. Just run a little bit more to the inside there. Slow it down to the tight left-hander. Tough to tell, so tough to tell if I'm pulling him in. Just get a decent launch in the backstretch. It's all about getting runs onto the straights when you can. A little bit hot into the final corner. Just try to carry the speed through. Amon might have what it takes today. Knowing Chris Amon, though, you never know if he's going to slow down at some point. We'll try to keep the pressure on, keep him pushing. The McLarens, though, are pretty bulletproof in this series. Bruce, as we talked about in the last race, he really was the big benefactor from Can-Am, having, I think, almost half the field use McLaren cars, but the works cars, him and Amon, were certainly the class of the field for the first few races. Understeer a bit here through Colasanti. Trying to give it everything I have without pushing just that little bit too far and running off the track. Felt like I was much quicker at Mont Tremblant than the other cars, but here Amon might be slightly faster overall. But right here it feels like I'm so close I can reach out and grab him. It's definitely my fastest part of the course. Bogs down a bit in second. Really only using second, third, and fourth throughout this course in this car. Just so much torque with the engine. You don't need all of the gears. All right, come through the final corner. I feel like I just pulled him in just a little bit. I can see some lap traffic up the road, so things are going to get interesting. We come to the line, 7 laps to go. Amon just there in front. Just slide it a bit hot there, just holding on to it. Oh, come over the rise. You really don't want to hit the dirt on the apexes either. It'll rip the car off the road. All over the wheels, sawing at the wheels. Not as smooth as I want it to be. Understeer. I gotta find a better line through Colasanti. When we catch the lap traffic, it's all gonna be about where we catch them, and if Amon's able to get around easier than I am, or if it holds him up. I'm definitely closer though. Catching him on pace, I think the lap traffic could make it easier or harder. Really to the low end of the revs. I didn't quite get the throttle down quick enough there. But a whole lot of lapped cars in front, so we'll see how this goes. I haven't seen any slow cars or accidents or anything. No yellow flags from my vantage point. So make way too fast into the final corner. Just pushing too much, sliding into the dirt. It's those little mistakes. I made those mistakes at Mont Tremblant as well, and it killed the race. That might be it, though. 6 laps to go. Big mistake there in the final corner. Lucky to not spin the car or something, but all right, gather it back up. Tires are definitely worn. Dirt on the tires. We'll get back on the course. I just had no grip there. So come into the corner. I think the sand all over the tires and everything, actually making them really not grippy. I did not anticipate that at all. All right, take it easy here. McLaren got back around me though. So we'll slide into Colasanti, barely holding onto the car. Did I break something going off the track there? Might have. All right, just take it easy here. I just don't want to lose more spots. I'm still on the podium. This is falling apart though. It's pulling in, aiming there. Through the final corner, running wide. All right, nice and easy over the top of the hill. Maybe dirt on the tires, just causing them to slide. All right, down to second gear. The car feels okay. Go to the right. The right is where it wasn't turning before. It's really tentative here. Just be nice and careful. It seems like it's understeering a lot still. So come onto the straight. Head towards the final corner. So slipping back to third. Car, I don't know if it's damaged or the tires just need to get worked back in. But it's all from running wide here. It's all my fault. I'm giving up chase to Eamon. All right, we'll come to the line though. How many laps to go? 5 laps to go. Now chasing McLaren in front. He's pretty far ahead though. He's as far as Eamon was. A little easier here through the first corner. Just about missed that flag stand too last time through. Something's definitely wrong with the car now. Just gonna have to baby it to the finish and hope we can make it. It's so disappointing. It's another potential win slipping away. Just a little errors. Right down to second gear here for Colasanti. It's gonna be such a slow ride to the finish. Right-hand corner seems so much slower than left-handed. Almost fine through this left-hander. Luckily, this downhill section's all to the left. Should still maybe catch the lap traffic. We can see if that helps me catch up to Bruce, but I don't know if I'm going to have the pace to stay with him. I have to start looking in my mirror, too. There's Bruce. I think a lapped car right in front of him. Apex there. There's a lot of traffic in front. Might not be over yet. Need to be extra careful now. His car's just not working well anymore. You can imagine going off the track, there'd just be sand and things everywhere. Probably get all up into the car's suspension and cooling system and everything. Luckily not to beach the car there. All right, 4 laps to go. Still P3, still hanging on to the podium. It's not for nothing. So we'll come down to the first turn. Really just doesn't want to turn in there though. Maybe something broke that sent me off the final corner. I think the racing driver who doesn't want to admit their own mistake would say something like that. But it's certainly broken now. All right, down to second gear. Nice and easy, try to find the apex somewhere there. Whole string of lap cars. I got to find my way around them as well. Or else could have somebody coming up behind me. Down a second. Bit early on the downshift, just trying to make sure the car will grip up. You can see McLaren in front there. He's actually gotten around most of these cars. Bit of a skid mark there from a car maybe. Understeer through the middle of light bulb. All right, catching up to the lap traffic. I think might be Sam Posey in front of me, a racing poet. So coming to the final corner, a bit late on the downshift. I was just too late. on the downshift there. The time I ran off, and it just sent me into the dirt. Must have hit a rock or something. All right, coming to the line though. There's 3 more laps to go. We'll have to try to find a way around the slower cars with a hurt Lola. So painful to drive now. Just doesn't want to turn to the left. The steering's a bit off-centered as well. It's still faster than these slower traffic. I'm pulling them in. Right down to second gear here. Just to find the right place to get around. They'll certainly have blue flags and give up the spots, but it's about where they do it and if I'm able to scoot around easily. Last thing I want to do is make contact. I still don't have anybody in the rear view, so I think I might be good for these final few laps with cars from behind. Right down to third gear. Just coast it down the hill. Second. Maybe you can pass coming up to light bulb. There's Sam Posey goes to the left. Get around him. So first lap car passed. And a few more in front. Oh, a slow car on the right side. I'm not sure who that is. I don't think it was one of the McLarens. It might have been Surtees. That'll make things interesting. All right, down to second gear for the final turn. Got around one of the other lap cars there, though, in that whole shuffle. I think I'm pulling in, actually, Bruce in front. See a red car, 2 cars up the road, 3 cars up the road. Come to the line, just 2 to go. It's Gurney's behind, 17 seconds, so I don't really have to worry behind me at all. As long as I don't go off the track or anything. Just get around these lap cars as quick as I can, see what happens from there. Balance the car on out. You're almost straight with the steering wheel, powering out of a corner. Just the wheel spin in these cars is so much. The triple left-hander. Slower car up the inside. They're battling with each other too. Always makes it extra difficult. So come up the hill. Oh, the maroon car slides to the inside. Go to avoid him. Car in front's trying to let me by, but maroon car is going to get back around. Did not expect that car in front to leave me the outside. I think we're still side by side here. Come up to the tight corner. Slide around where I got around Posey. So awkward. It's all right. Make it through clean. I can see one red car in front now. I don't know if that's the McLaren. That looks like a McLaren. All right, pedal to the middle. See if we can get around him here. We're going to come to 1 to go. Right, get it down second gear. Yeah, it's definitely a McLaren. I don't know if he's being held up from the car in front. It'd be Bruce. So come to the line. 1 lap to go. Bridgehampton. I think it's McLaren in front. Right down to third gear. Just trying to do my best with the damaged car to pass him. Right down to second gear. Come into tight corner here. Might be able to get him over the hill. If he's not able to get around the lapped car, he's looking to the inside. It's McLaren in front. Right, closing in now. Might have just the shot to do this. As the car sweeps out to the left. Oh, it's not McLaren. It is a McLaren. It's a red McLaren, but it's not Bruce. It's going to give me the inside line and take the spot back. Oh, what are we doing? Right, we'll come over the top of the hill. It's not Bruce. Chases off. It's not worth risking anything to get around the final couple of cars here unless they give me the spot. It's going to go to the left side of the track. All right, sneak around the right side. Man, comes and fades back over. Good driver to talk to after the race. We'll come through light bulb corner. I thought that was going to be Bruce just to get that second spot back, but I think Bruce is long gone at this point. We'll snake through the final couple of corners, though, to end the race here at Bridgehampton. Such a difficult race. This one was really challenging, especially with the damaged car for the second half. I was so disappointed. I wasn't able to challenge Eamon for the win. I think I had enough speed, and with all these lapped cars and stuff, who knows? But could have, should have. There's the checkered flag, finishing third place at Bridgehampton. So there they are, the final results from Bridgehampton. Chris Amon able to get the win. I'm so disappointed that I wasn't able to chase him down for that. I think the car had the speed, and I simply made a mistake in the final corner, braking too late and sliding off the track, and it damaged the car. Maybe if it didn't damage the car, I could have gotten some of that time back, but with the damage going into turn 1, I just wasn't expecting it, and also threw the car off there. Lucky to hold on to it and relearn how the car drove to get it to the finish. And I think holding on to third was good, given all those mistakes and things. But another win sliding away is just one of those little mistakes, and it might add up at the end of the season. But Bruce McLaren able to get the second step on the podium right behind his teammate, so it's a McLaren 1-2. They have to love that. And then myself, Richie Axelson in third place. All in all, I can't be too upset with a third place finish, given all that happened during the race and everything. But knowing that I could have possibly won this one, it just hurts that much more. But I do still beat the boss. Dan Gurney finishes fourth in the other Gurney. Lola, Ford Westlake back there, ahead of Mark Donohue and George Fulmer in sixth position, rounding out the points. If we look further back, there were only 3 more cars on the lead lap. Phil Hill in the Chapparal finishes the race in 7th position. Didn't really see him at all during the race, maybe in my mirror right at the start, but certainly the Chapparal and its wing will be heard from again in the future races. And then as we run further back through the grid, we can see at the very bottom 2 retirements from this one, and it was John Surtees that we saw there on that second to last straight with a clutch issue retiring. That's going to really change the points here. And Motsenbacher as well with a header issue, retiring from the race and finishing last. So taking a look at the updated points, Chris Amon now jumps into the lead with that win, combining it with his 4th place finish from the first round. So 12 points puts him out just 2 points ahead of myself and Bruce McLaren, tied for 2nd place right now. But the championship is still very much wide open, although a third feels so disappointing based on what I thought I could have done today. It really keeps me in the hunt for everything. And especially because John Surtees is now back and forth, not scoring any points in the second round, even though he has the win in the first round. But he's still just 1 point off of us, so it's really wide open in the top 4 at this point. From there, it's Mr. Consistent Mark Donohue with Team Penske, picking up another 2 points for his 5th place finish and staying in 5th overall on 4 now. And Dan Gurney gets himself on the board. My teammate back in 6th. Hopefully will be in the rest of the rounds. No more engine issues and things. I can see if he can jump up and battle with us. So there's still a lot to play for in the Can-Am series, and it's still wide open just having gone through these first 2 rounds with 4 rounds remaining. And next up, the series will head back north of the border to Mosport, one of Canada's finest circuits, but one that's no less challenging than the ones we've driven already. So hopefully Richie can put everything together and come away finally with a win and really be a challenger for the title in the Can-Am series. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's been so long since the last one of these, and hopefully not as long until the next one. But until then, thank you for watching. This is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again next time.